I'm Hammeh, and we have some Overwatch lore analysis for you today, as well as a little speculation about maybe a new hero in Overwatch 2. We had a correspondence post for Toshiro Yamagami letter shared. In this video, I'm going to jump through and analyse the letter, see what it might tell us about something to do with Overwatch 2, given that we know that Kanezaka, the map, is apparently full of teases for Overwatch 2, and what Overwatch lore and context we learn from this letter. Timecodes are in the description below if you want to skip. I'll quickly summarise the letter before going on to the learnings and a little bit of speculation as to maybe a new hero at the end. We are introduced to Asa Yamagami, who is writing to her husband, Toshiro Yamagami. The three family members mentioned in this letter are Asa, Toshiro, and a daughter. No name is actually shared for, but more on her later. In the letter, we hear from Asa that Toshiro has been taken captive by the Hashimoto clan or gang, and indeed Asa and her daughter are only allowed to visit when the gang allow it. Now, Toshiro has gifted the daughter recently, according to Asa, a sword. She prays as a mother that the blades that he makes for the clan aren't nearly so sharp. Very, very interesting. Asa says that the Yamagami blades, the family blades, are still locked up tight. I think that's a particularly cool detail. They've chosen to take the name of a real-life Japanese swordsmith, a family that certainly was smithing swords in the 1900s and beforehand, as far as I can see. In a very, very poetic letter in general, Asa misses and describes the sound of her husband's swordsmithing. She's trying to keep the letter light as she talks of actually having to keep the peace with her own blade in Kanezaka. She's forced to by the Hashimoto. She makes it very, very obvious that she knows that if she steps out of line, her husband may well be in danger as he works his indentured servitude as the Hashimoto swordsmith. Asa talks of details in the letter of home to try and comfort her husband, and she talks with a lot of reference to the new map, talking about details that you can see, such as the ramen shop, the cat cafe, the spinning a dog sign, and many, many more in the actual level itself. She does, however, end up returning to the state of the town. The Hashimoto are taking protection money from businesses in Kanezaka as the tourists arrive, so by night when the lights are down, do the gangsters come, take money, and go back to the local bar. Asa reflects at this point on the family's previous relationship with the Shimada clan, their previous overseers or masters in the area, who, although she says were not angels, criminals indeed, were better in her eyes than the Hashimoto, to the extent where Asa was actually their swordsmaster. She trained Genji and Hanzo. Asa reflects on the Shimada, saying that they had a better understanding of and a relationship with the locals in a way that the Hashimoto do not. I regret, says Asa, even though the old part of Kanezaka appears outwardly unchanged, it has suffered under the cruel hand of the Hashimoto. I stand, as Kanezaka itself does, between the old ways of the mountain and the new sharp ways of the city and the Hashimoto. And that has got more difficult recently. Now there is even more pressure. Apparently, mysterious vigilantes who are striking at Hashimoto supplies are causing the gang to strike out in retaliation and press harder on the local populace. Now Asa feels this is bad, and vows that she will patrol at night, find these self-appointed guardians who, if not deterred from this path, may be the spark of a misguided and deadly fire that will consume us all. She is concerned with keeping the peace, keeping her husband safe above upsetting this status quo. Wishing him well, Asa closes on a lighter note that she tried to promise and says one of her husband's old sayings: "The Kitsune can change your luck with a flick of even one of her tails. May she flick all 9 of them and send some much needed good luck our way." So, an intriguing letter, but what have we learnt about the family, about the Shimada, and maybe, just maybe, about a new hero? Anything coming into Blizzconline for 2021, coming up in February? Well, first things first, dates. There are some quite juicy dates here for you fans of Overwatch timelining. The first one is 8 years. We know that swordsmith Toshiro was taken away 8 years ago. Now, roughly in the timeline, when Overwatch was launched, Overwatch fell roughly 7 years or so before the present day of Overwatch's launch many, many years ago. Now, depending on how long in the timeline has passed between the events of the Overwatch Recall cinematic and Overwatch's launch in game to the present day in the timeline, 0 hour, it may not be that long. It's certainly not the real life years that Overwatch has been out. This could mean that Toshiro was taken just before or when Overwatch fell. Either way, Asa and her daughter have been without a husband and father for 8 years, although it seems that they can visit every now and then. Now, before Overwatch fell, we know that the world was getting a more complicated and challenging place, and there were too many threats and too many things going on for Overwatch to deal with. The other interesting date is 12 years ago. Now, this was cited by Asa as being the time where she remembers the Hashimoto coming into the area, or them starting to have an effect in the area from. Now, that is 4 years before her husband Toshiro was taken by them. So in those 4 years, the Hashimoto have become stronger to the point where they're ruling the roost in the area, and then they can actually kidnap and abduct a famous local swordsmith to serve them. Now, we don't know what form the Hashimoto had 12 years ago, but if they started being an influence then, maybe, just maybe, that's the date that Genji finished clearing up the Shimada, was in the process of clearing up the Shimada, or maybe is when he actually sustained his injuries in his battle with Hanzo that we've heard about in the two's bios on the Overwatch website. Maybe as soon as Genji goes, then there is strife between the Shimada and the Hashimoto. Maybe when Genji actually is offered the deal of cybernetics by Overwatch in exchange for cleaning up his former clan, maybe he comes back, cleans up the Shimada, and then after he leaves there's a power vacuum, and maybe that's when the Hashimoto step in. So this isn't a concrete dating of any actions, but it gives us the opportunity to roughly date Genji's time in Overwatch a little, and maybe the Genji Hanzo fight. Maybe Genji was in Overwatch 2 to 3 years, say, of this 4-year period between Asa first remembering the Hashimoto coming into Hanamura, and then the 8 years ago where her husband was taken away. The interesting thing here, and the reason that we value Asa's opinion so much, is that she is integral to the history of the Shimada clan recently. The family, Asa's grandmother and mother, were honoured by the Shimadas to tend the Fox Shrine. This goes back a generation or two. Kanezaka being the seat of Shimada power, as she describes it. Asa was interested in Kenjutsu and served as a swordmaster to the clan. She actually directly calls out, "I who trained the scions of Sohiro Shimada, forced to turn my swordmaster's blade against my own. The children of this town, growing to adulthood with only the brutal, thoughtless Hashimoto to determine what is good and bad. Our daughter among them. It is dangerous in this city now." Now, Asa, at a few different times, reflects on the character of the Shimadas. They were no gods but people, and criminals at that. But the Shimada understood that honour and loyalty forged the strongest bond between ruler and ruled. They asked much of those who followed them, but they inspired us to give it. And in return, the Shimada clan led with integrity and treated us with respect. Well, integrity amongst criminals, amongst thieves indeed, as Asa sees it. But where the Shimada gave, the Hashimoto take. After all, when one has many homes, one has none, and the Hashimoto clan claws at nearly every city in the nation, not just Hanamura. We are nothing special to them. One day they will drink us dry and move on, leaving us empty and broken. Even now, some 12 years on, as I said before, I see the mark they have left on our city. So, detailing the family's links with the Shimada, and also giving us a lot of information on this force, not just in Hanamura, but in Japan, the Hashimoto clan. Now, last but not least, of course, the riddle, the mystery, and the enigma of the couple's daughter. Now, we did hear the mention of the blade gifted to her earlier in the story. Asa describes it as being very, very sharp, and she hopes that the blades that her husband make for the Hashimoto are not as sharp indeed. Now, apart from that, all else we hear of the daughter is Asa's concerns for her, of her growing up in this Hanamura, in this Japan, where the Hashimoto are being thuggish and violent, where they are extracting protection money. By day the tourists come, the businesses make money, by night the gang, the clan comes around and takes their dues. But apparently, shipments of Hashimoto contraband have been going missing. Their men have been badly beaten or robbed, and perhaps most boldly of all, messages painted in bright, conspicuous colours have started to appear, although they are quickly painted over. Now, when the map was announced by Jeff, he did say, pay particular attention to the graffiti. There are loads of teasers, some of which will pay off in Overwatch 2. And of course, this colourful graffiti image of a fox has been doing the rounds. Now, this very much, as people have speculated, could there be a fox hero, a ninja style hero? People have speculated, could it be another offspring, an offshoot of the Shimada clan? I'm going to refer back to an article that many people have cited, which was actually around BlizzCon that I was privileged to attend in 2019. Game Informer was shown a deck by Jeff, and they saw some silhouettes of what they thought may be future heroes. The hero that stood out the most appeared to be a female with short hair. At her side and standing up to her knees was a fuzzy little critter with pointy ears. It looked like a fennec fox, but with longer ears and a more aggressive stance. So, interesting stuff. Whether or not the animal is going to be a pet summon or something like Bob, whether or not it's just a prop and nothing to do with how the hero fights, but a lady with short hair and a fox. Well, fox symbology is all over this map, and the fox shrine, of course, is there, the Kitsune shrine. You can change your luck, as Toshiro apparently loved to say to his wife. Maybe he used to say this to his daughter. Luck can be changed with a flick of even one of her tails. Now, depending on which Kitsune myth you read, there can be many, many different numbers of tails, but 9 is quite commonly known. So, I will simply close with this. How about the daughter as a hero in Overwatch 2 who is wielding a sword, who is perhaps, fighting with some kind of pet, or has a pet? Maybe, as the Game Informer article said, similar in a way to Bastion's bird. It's a prop rather than something that's used, such as Bob being cast. But this could be cool. A lot of people have thought, oh, there could be another Shimada. What would have happened if there was a Shimada sister? The idea of another ninja related to the Shimada clan in some way, shape or form has been a very, very popular one and speculated as a hero for many, many years in Overwatch's history. Cool, it's been a while now, hasn't it? So who knows? Maybe this is Blizzard's way of not making it a direct extra member of the Shimada family, but someone very, very close to the clan. Maybe the daughter of the swordsmith, famous in the local area for generation upon generation, and the Swordmaster, the woman who is chosen by the Shimadas to teach Genji, to teach Hanzo, and presumably the rest of the clan in the ways of the blade. A really, really exciting thought. Maybe the map points to it. And hey, with BlizzCon online in February, just around the corner, who knows? I'd love to see an animated short there. Maybe we'll get an announcement of a new hero for Overwatch 2. Maybe more news on Overwatch 2 is coming. Can't wait to find out. So there you go, there's my lore analysis. If you like this video, throw a like, subscribe, comment below with what you thought of the story. What would you like to see at BlizzCon Online? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I've been covering Overwatch lore for over 5 years. Pretty much everything inside and outside of the game is covered in my playlists here. Lore, interaction, voice lines, short stories, comics, animated short analysis, and more. You name it. Do let me know what you think. Big thanks to my patrons on Patreon, who as always make my videos possible. If you'd like to see how you could support the channel from just $1 a month, I'm in the process of revamping the channel and more for 2021. Check out patreon.com/Hammeh. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.